I didn't cry when my father slapped me in front of the entire dinner table. I counted the beats as his wine glass fell and his mask slipped at the exact same moment. In this town, honor is the dessert served after turkey. That night, I brought the main course evidence. He thought only I heard him say, "You embarrassed us again," until I clicked the signing pen that happened to have a microphone inside. The sound of breaking china would mask the sound of breaking chains. My name is Nora Hale, and I learned in the Army that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who smile while they reload. Tonight, at my aunt's Thanksgiving dinner, I watched my father do exactly that smile as his palm connected with my cheek, the sound cutting through the clatter of silverware like a gunshot through silence. The dining room froze. 23 relatives, their forks suspended between plates and mouths, gravy cooling on china. The smell of butter and cinnamon turned metallic in my mouth. My mother, Lorraine, didn't even look up from cutting her turkey, her diamond earrings catching the chandelier light as she tilted her head just so the practiced angle of a woman who's learned to see nothing. "You embarrassed us again," Gregory Hale said, adjusting his city council cufflinks. His voice carried that particular timbre of Midwest authority, the kind that gets contractors to lower their bids and makes church ladies forget what they witnessed. Speaking out of turn about the foundation's allocations, in front of the Weatherbees, I touched my cheek, feeling the heat bloom under my fingers. 32 years old, Bronze Star recipient, managed supply chains through Kandahar's worst seasons. And here I was, reduced to a misbehaving child at the grown-ups' table. The doorbell camera I'd installed last month would have caught my arrival, but the signing pen in my pocket, the one Maya Torres had given me last week, was capturing everything in ultra-clear audio. "The Weatherbees donated $40,000 to the homeless shelter fund," I said, my voice steady as a rifle sight. "They deserved to know only 8,000 made it to actual meals." The second slap came faster. This time, several cousins gasped. Aunt Patricia's wine glass actually fell, Merlot spreading across the white tablecloth like blood on snow. The pattern looked familiar. I'd seen it on supply manifests, the way numbers leaked from one column to another when someone thought no one was watching. My father straightened his tie, silk, Italian, bought the same week the foundation purchased emergency generators that somehow ended up powering his construction sites. "We'll discuss your attitude privately." But I was done with private discussions. Done with the basement conversations where bruises could hide under winter sweaters. Done watching my grandmother's house, the one Grandpa built with his own hands after the war, get transferred to Maple Development LLC while she dozed on Ativan. "Actually," I said, standing slowly, my joints remembering military bearing, "I think we're done discussing anything." My mother finally looked up. "Nora, dear, you're making a scene." A scene. Like this was theater. Like we were all just playing roles: the respectable contractor, the charitable foundation director, the dutiful daughter. But I'd learned in Ravenshaw Logistics Group that every supply chain has a paper trail, and every paper trail tells a truth that smiles can't cover. I walked out, my boots steady on my aunt's hardwood floors, each step a small rebellion. Behind me, I heard my father's voice, smooth as good bourbon, PTSD from her service. "We're getting her help." The November air hit my burning cheek like a blessing. From my car, I could see them through the window, my family, resuming their meal, forks moving again, conversation flowing around my absence like water around a stone. My father was already laughing at something, his hand gesturing with the same casual authority that had just marked my face. I pulled out my phone and texted Maya. "It's time." Her response was immediate. "Evidence ready. Ari's on standby." "You sure?" I looked at my reflection in the car mirror. The mark was already fading, but the doorbell camera had seen everything. The pen had heard everything. And next Thanksgiving would be different. "Dead sure," I typed back. "They want to talk about embarrassment. Let's discuss it in front of everyone." The drive back to my apartment took 12 minutes. I knew because I counted every second. Each one a small promise. No more silence. No more scripts. no more masks. They thought they'd broken me with that slap, thought they'd restored order to their carefully constructed kingdom. But I'd learned something in the service that my father, for all his contractor's wisdom, never understood the best demolition happens from the inside out. And I had 8 months of foundation records that would make quite an explosive. The apartment felt different after making the decision. Every surface seemed sharper, every shadow more defined. I sat at my kitchen table at 2:37 a.m., surrounded by 18 months of methodically collected evidence, and began my tactical assessment. First, the inventory of damages, not the bruise fading on my cheek, but the real wounds. My college fund, $87,000, borrowed temporarily when I was 19, never returned. The explanation came with a backhand and a lecture about family sacrifice. Grandma's Victorian on Maple Street deed transferred 6 months ago while she was recovering from hip surgery, too medicated to understand what she was signing. The house worth $400,000, sold to Maple Development LLC for $1 in family consideration. Then the foundation records. Christ, the foundation records. Maya had pulled 3 years of tax filings through her position at the Midwest Financial Integrity Unit. $48,900 for medical equipment, purchased the same day Williams & Sonoma delivered a professional-grade kitchen to my parents' house. Emergency shelter supplies that matched, item for item, the inventory from their lake house renovation. Community meal services, billed on dates that coincided perfectly with my mother's garden parties. I opened my laptop and started typing the operation plan, my fingers finding the rhythm they'd learned writing after action reports in Kandahar Layer 1 personal security file. Restraining Order Ari already had the paperwork templated. Secure temporary housing Maya's guest room for 2 weeks. Change all passwords. Enable 2-factor authentication. Safety deposit box for physical evidence at First National. Not Wells Fargo, where Gregory had connections. Layer 2, legal framework. Power of attorney for Grandma Doctor. Morrison would testify about her cognitive state during the signing. Cloud backup of all financial records across 3 separate services. Notarized copies of everything record preservation letters to prevent document destruction. Layer 3. The public reckoning. This was where military precision would meet small-town theater. Another family dinner, but this time choreographed like a supply drop in hostile territory. Timing would be everything. Maya called at 6:15. You haven't slept? Sleep is for people who haven't been stealing from food banks, I said, scanning another receipt. Did you see the contractor bids? The ones where your father's company mysteriously wins every city project by exactly 1% under the nearest competitor. Yeah, I saw them. Also found something else. Your mom's foundation has a special relationship with 3 city council members. They all have kids with full scholarships from the Hale Family Foundation. Scholarships for what? Existing, being related to people who vote on construction contracts. I laughed, but it came out sharp. God, they're not even creative criminals. The best criminals never are. They just count on everyone being too polite to point it out. Maya paused. Your brother called me. Evan, 28, still living at home. Still under their thumb. What did he say? He wants to help. Says Mom keeps a second set of books in her jewelry box. Old habit from before everything went digital. They'll destroy him if they find out. He knows. He said, Maya's voice softened. He said he's tired of watching them hurt you while he stands there like furniture. I stared at the photo on my wall, last year's family Christmas card. We looked perfect. Gregory's hand on my shoulder. You couldn't see how hard he was gripping. Lorraine's practiced smile. Evan looking slightly past the camera. And me in the center, playing the role of the successful daughter home for the holidays. Set up a secure line for Evan, I said. Signal app, disappearing messages. Already done. Nora, you know once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. They'll come at you with everything. I thought about Grandma in her nursing home room. Confused about why she couldn't go home anymore, about the kids at Jefferson Elementary eating generic crackers while my mother posted Instagram photos of foundation galas at the country club. About every slap, every shove, every moment I'd been told that family meant staying silent. Maya, they already came at me with everything, for 32 years. The only difference is now I'm going to make it public record. When, next Thanksgiving weekend, Saturday after, they'll want to restore their image after what happened at Aunt Patricia's. They'll invite everyone to show what a happy family we are. That's 3 days away. I know. Can you get the fraud investigators ready? They're already interested. Your documentation got their attention. They just need probable cause to move. They'll have it, gift wrapped with a bow. I stood, my body stiff from sitting all night, and walked to the window. Maple Briar was waking up joggers on Main Street, coffee shop opening, the veneer of Midwest perfection. Somewhere across town, my father was probably having breakfast, reading the paper, planning his next city council manipulation. Maya, I said. In the Army, they taught us that the enemy's greatest strength is usually their greatest weakness. What's theirs? Their reputation. They need it more than oxygen. So that's exactly where we're going to hit them, right in front of everyone who matters to them. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for them to walk into it, confident in their masks, never knowing that this time, the cameras would be rolling and the receipts would be certified. The storage unit smelled like old paper and crime. Maya and I sat cross-legged on the concrete floor at 11:43 p.m., surrounded by banker's boxes that contained 3 years of my parents' parallel universe, the one where charity meant commission and donation meant personal decoration. Jesus, Maya whispered, holding up another receipt. Your mom bought a $12,000 massage chair and filed it as therapeutic equipment for Veterans Recovery Center. The only veteran who ever used that chair was me, I said, when I had back surgery. Once. She made me sit on the floor the next visit because the leather might stain. We'd been at this for 4 hours, building what prosecutors would call an airtight case. Each document got photographed, cataloged, cross-referenced. My military training kicked in. This was intelligence gathering, and intelligence won wars. The Foundation records were a goldmine of criminal creativity, emergency generators that powered my father's construction sites exclusively, community transport vehicles, my mother's Mercedes, my father's Escalade youth program supplies worth $38,000 that matched, SKU for SKU, the inventory of their lake house renovation, catering for homeless shelter, billed on 14 dates when the shelter was closed for repairs, but the contracts were where Gregory had gotten cocky. Shell companies layered on shell companies, all leading back to addresses that were either empty lots or single-room apartments rented to his construction workers, Maple Development LLC, Briar Holdings, Wisconsin Community Builders, different names, same signatures, same bang-on-the-dollar winning bids. Listen to this, Maya said, pulling up an audio file on her phone. Evan sent this an hour ago. My mother's voice filled the storage unit, recorded from Evan's phone hidden in the kitchen. The Jefferson School District audit is next month. Move the October allocations to September. Backdate the receipts. Gregory's cousin at the print shop can age them properly. Then my father. What about the Weatherby situation? That little bitch opened her mouth. I told everyone she's having mental health issues. PTSD. Terrible what war does to people. Patricia already believes it. She'll spread it through her book club. My hands clenched. Even now, even caught on tape, they were crafting narratives where I was the problem. There's more, Maya said quietly. She pulled out a folder marked Grandma Medical. I knew what was coming before I opened it. Power of attorney signed during surgery recovery. Mediation records showing she'd been given Ativan and Percocet simultaneously, a combination that would make anyone sign anything. The notary's signature belonged to one of my father's employees. But the worst was the recording Evan had managed to pull from my mother's cloud backup. She'd recorded it herself, probably as insurance. Grandma's voice, slurred and confused. I don't understand. My house. It's for the best. Mom, the capital gains tax would ruin you. This way, it stays in the family. But where will I live? Somewhere safer. We've already picked a lovely place. The lovely place cost Medicaid $2,000 a month while my parents pocketed $400,000 from the house sale. I need air, I said, standing abruptly. Outside the storage facility, the November wind cut through my jacket. Maya followed, lighting a cigarette she'd quit 3 years ago. You know what the worst part is, I said. It's not even the money. It's that they're good at it. They've turned theft into an art form, and everyone applauds them for it. Not everyone, Maya corrected. The forensic accountants at the state level are very interested. Your evidence patterns match 6 other cases they're investigating. Your parents might have started a trend. Or joined one that was already there. My phone buzzed. Evan, Mom's planning something. Overheard her calling her lawyer. Something about preemptive custody and mental health conservatorship. You need to move fast. Maya read over my shoulder. They're going to try to have you declared incompetent. Let them try. Ari already filed my medical records with the court full psychological evaluation from last month. Clean bill of mental health. Preemptive strike. You knew. I know my parents. They have 3 moves: discredit, destroy, or disappear the problem. Since I'm their daughter, disappearing me would raise questions. So they'll try the first 2. We went back inside, and I pulled out the final piece, a USB drive containing 43 hours of security footage from various sources. The coffee shop camera that caught my father taking envelopes from contractors. The parking garage footage of my mother loading donation boxes, full of new electronics, into her car. The restaurant recording of them coaching relatives on what to say about me. This is it, I said, sealing everything in evidence bags with chain of custody forms. Every forged signature, every stolen dollar, every diverted donation. Maya started calculating. Based on what we have here, we're looking at embezzlement of roughly $1.3 million over 3 years. That's serious federal time. I don't care about the time. I care about the truth. I care about Grandma getting her house back. I care about those kids getting their actual meals. And the Thanksgiving dinner. I smiled, and it felt like armor clicking into place. Already called my aunt, told her I wanted to apologize properly, make amends in front of everyone. She nearly cried with relief. Mom and Dad will be thrilled their prodigal daughter, finally falling back in line. They have no idea what's coming. No, I said, locking the storage unit. Each document now copied in triplicate and stored in 3 different locations. They think they know their daughter, but they never met the soldier. The drive home. I played it all in my head. Every receipt would become a slide. Every recording would echo through speakers. Every relative would become a witness. 3 days until the curtain rose on their final performance. Setting the stage for destruction requires the same precision as setting charges for demolition. Every wire must connect, every timer synchronized, every exit covered. I spent Friday morning turning my parents' house, the venue they'd proudly insisted on for the reconciliation dinner, into a courtroom they didn't know they were entering. Testing, testing, I whispered into the signing pen at 9:23 a.m., watching the levels spike on my phone app. The new firmware Maya had installed gave it 8 hours of 4K video recording, uploaded directly to 3 cloud services simultaneously. Aunt Patricia had been thrilled to help with setup. I'm so glad you're making amends, dear. Your mother's been beside herself. She arranged the centerpiece, a beautiful autumn display that now concealed a wireless speaker synced to my phone. The guest list read like a who's who of Maple Briar Society, the Weatherbys. 3 city council members, the district attorney's wife, the editor of the local paper, Father Morrison, and 14 relatives who'd spent years enabling my parents' fiction. 26 witnesses in total. Perfect. I'd sent the information packets to the state attorney's office and the IRS at 8 a.m. That morning, not enough to arrest, but enough to have agents on standby. The beauty of financial crimes once you demonstrate probable cause and willing witnesses. The machinery moves fast. You're early, my mother said, entering the dining room. She looked perfect. As always, cream cashmere, pearl earrings, the kind of smile that had gotten her elected to every charity board in town. I wanted to help, I said, arranging place cards. Make sure everything's perfect. She touched my shoulder, and I managed not to flinch. I'm glad you've come to your senses. That scene at Patricia's was unfortunate. Yes, I agreed. Very unfortunate that everyone saw it. She missed the edge in my voice, too focused on her mental guest list. The Weatherbys will be here. You'll apologize properly this time. Oh, I plan to tell them everything. Good girl. Evan arrived at noon, supposedly to help, but really to plant the final pieces. He slipped the backup USB into the smart TV's port while pretending to check the cable connection. Another copy went behind the bookshelf, voice activated, ready to play when I said the trigger phrase we'd rehearsed. You sure about this? He whispered when we passed in the hallway. Are you? He showed me his phone, a recording app running, backup battery attached. They screamed at Grandma on the phone yesterday about how she's costing them money by living too long. I got all of it. Save it for the finale. My father came home at 3, contractor's dust still on his boots despite the Escalade in the driveway. He looked at me like I was a problem already solved. Nora, you're here. Wouldn't miss it. He studied my face, searching for signs of rebellion. I gave him nothing but dutiful daughter, the mask I'd worn for 32 years before it cracked. You'll sit between your mother and me, he said. No unauthorized conversations. Of course. The afternoon crawled by in preparation. My mother orchestrated everything like a General Flowers here, candles there, the good china that she'd bought with Veterans Fund money. I helped silently, each task a small goodbye to this house, these people, this suffocating performance. At 5:45 p.m., I excused myself to change. In the bathroom, I checked everything one last time. Pen camera recording, phone fully charged, all files ready. Maya on standby with the fraud investigators. Ari at her office with injunction papers. The neighbors the Kowalskis alerted to watch for any violence. I put on the dress my mother had bought me last Christmas, conservative navy, the kind of thing that said respectable daughter. One last costume for one last show. The doorbell rang at 6 sharp. The Weatherbys, prompt as always. Then the others, filing in with wine and covered dishes and no idea they were walking into evidence collection. Nora, Mrs. Weatherby embraced me. Your mother said you wanted to speak with us. After dinner, I promised. I want everyone to hear. My father's jaw tightened, but he couldn't object without raising suspicions. The beauty of their own trap, they'd invited everyone to witness my apology, my return to the family fold. They couldn't back out now without questions. Dinner began at 6:30. 26 people around the extended dining table, candlelight reflecting off crystal, the smell of rosemary and thyme. Normal. Perfect. The kind of scene my mother would post on Instagram with hashtags about blessing and family. I sat between my parents as ordered, feeling my father's presence like a weight, my mother's attention like surveillance. But under the table, my finger found the record button on my phone. Before we begin, my father stood, raising his wine glass. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Family and community are everything. And sometimes, he looked down at me, even family loses its way, but love brings them home. Everyone murmured approval. Mrs. Weatherby dabbed her eyes. Nora has something she'd like to say, my mother announced, her hand finding my wrist under the table, squeezing just hard enough to remind me of my lines. I stood slowly, my glass of water steady in my hand. Around the table, faces turned toward me with expectation, some sympathetic, some skeptical, all waiting for the prodigal daughter to perform her penance. I do have something to say, I began, meeting each pair of eyes, about family, about truth, and about the $40,000 the Weatherbys donated that never made it to a single homeless person. The silence hit like a flashbang. My mother's nails dug into my wrist, but I pulled free, walking to the smart TV. What I'm about to show you, I said, is 3 years of theft, fraud, and embezzlement. And before anyone thinks about leaving, I held up my phone. The state attorney's office and IRS are already on their way. You're all witnesses now. My father started to rise. Nora's having an episode. Sit down, Gregory, I said, and pressed play. The counterattack started at 7:14 a.m. Saturday morning, 12 hours before the dinner. I was at Maya's apartment when the first salvo hit my phone, exploding with notifications from colleagues, friends, even my dentist's office. Check your email, Maya said, her face grim. The subject line, concerns about Nora Hale's mental health, a family's plea. My parents had sent a mass email to my entire professional network. 3 pages of manufactured concern. Complete with selective medical history, my back surgery became drug-seeking behavior. Creative interpretation of my military service struggled with authority and reality. And outright lies, recent violent episodes requiring intervention. They CC'd your boss, Maya noted. My phone rang. Tom Rodriguez, my manager at North River Systems. Nora, I just got a very disturbing email from your parents. They're suggesting you might be a danger to yourself and others. Tom, it's a preemptive strike. I'm about to expose their embezzlement from their charity foundation. This is their attempt to discredit me. Silence. Then, they CC'd the entire board of directors, Nora, and our liability insurance company. I'm being pressured to put you on administrative leave. Tom, I'm sorry. Until this is resolved, you can't access company systems or property. It's not personal. It's protocol. The line went dead. Within an hour, I'd lost access to my work email. My key card was deactivated, and my company laptop remotely wiped. They're good, Maya admitted, watching me pace. They knew hitting your income would shake you. But the professional assassination was just the warm-up. By noon, my parents had called every relative with their version I was unstable, possibly dangerous, definitely delusional. They'd even produced a concerned family friend, actually my father's contractor buddy who swore he'd seen me talking to people who weren't there outside the grocery store. My phone buzzed. Evan, Mom's at the church, he texted, crying to Father Morrison about her troubled daughter. She's got a prayer circle going. 60 people praying for your mental health. The cruelty of it was elegant. Every person they told became part of the narrative. Every prayer circle member would spread the story. By evening, half of Maple Briar would believe I was having a psychotic break. At 2:30 p.m., it got worse. A knock at Maya's door, 2 police officers. We've received a wellness check request, the older one said. Your parents are concerned you might hurt yourself. I'm fine. Officers, this is harassment. They had to check anyway. Standard procedure. They looked around Maya's apartment, asked their questions, took notes. Professional. But the damage was done. There was now a police record of my parents' concern. Your mom's crying on the phone, the younger officer mentioned. Says you've been making wild accusations? Did she mention she stole $400,000 from my grandmother? He shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, that sounds like a family matter. After they left, I sat on Maya's couch, understanding the full scope of their strategy. They weren't just trying to discredit me, they were building a legal framework to have me committed or placed under conservatorship. If they could get power of attorney over me like they had with Grandma, you could call it off, Maya said quietly. The dinner, the evidence, wait until their attack dies down. That's what they're counting on, that I'll retreat, regroup, give them time to destroy evidence and solidify their narrative. My phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Hale. This is Dr. Kenneth Marsh from Riverside Psychiatric. Your mother has filed an emergency petition for involuntary commitment. She claims you're experiencing delusions about family persecution. My blood went cold. When is the hearing? Monday morning, 9 a.m. You should retain counsel immediately. I hung up and called Ari. She answered on the first ring. I know, she said. I'm already filing counter motions. I've got your psychological evaluation from last month, your service records, everything. But Nora, they've got 3 people willing to testify you're unstable. Who? Your Aunt Patricia, your father's cousin, and someone named Bradley Chin, Bradley Thompson, Dad's contractor. They probably meant Thompson. Right, Thompson. He's claiming you threatened him last week. I've never spoken to the man in my life. Doesn't matter. It's his word adding to their pattern. Nora, they're trying to bury you in bureaucracy until you break. But then Evan sent another text. A photo of a notebook page in my mother's handwriting. If commitment fails, try financial audit threat. Tom Rodriguez, $4K monthly to keep quiet about inventory shrinkage at North River. They were blackmailing my boss. That's why he'd folded so quickly. They just made a mistake, I told Maya, showing her the photo. They put their crimes in writing. At 4:45 p.m. As I was preparing for the dinner despite everything, another blow landed. My landlord called my parents had contacted him, warning that I was unstable and might damage property. He was initiating eviction proceedings for safety concerns. I looked at myself in Maya's bathroom mirror. They'd taken my job, my reputation, my home. They'd tried to take my freedom, all in a single day. But they'd forgotten something crucial, something my drill sergeant had taught me: the enemy's desperation is directly proportional to their fear, and they were throwing everything at me because they knew what was coming at dinner. You still going? Maya asked from the doorway. They expect me broken, I said, applying lipstick with steady hands. Defeated. Maybe committed to psychiatric hold by now. And instead, I'm going to walk into their house, smile at their guests, and burn their empire to the ground while they watch. I picked up the pen camera, feeling its weight like ammunition. They think they've won because they knocked me down, but I learned something in Afghanistan: sometimes the best position to fight from is on your knees. They never see the knife coming. At 5:58 p.m., I walked up my parents' driveway. Neighbors watched from windows. The prayer circle had done its work. Everyone was waiting to see the crazy daughter, the unstable veteran, the family disappointment. They were about to see something else entirely. The screen lit up with the first document: a foundation receipt for medical equipment, $48,900. Next to it, the Williams and Sonoma invoice for the same amount. Same date, delivered to my parents' address. That's... Mrs. Weatherby's voice died. Fraud, I finished. Here's another. Click. Community meal services billed for October 15th through 20th. Click. Photos from my mother's Instagram, their lake house party on those exact dates, catered by the same company. My father lunged for the TV, but I stepped between him and the screen. Touch me again, and the assault charges go on top of the embezzlement. You're sick, my mother hissed, but her voice cracked. Everyone, she's having an episode. Let's hear what you really think, I said, and spoke the trigger phrase, time to clean the kitchen. The hidden speaker came alive with my mother's voice from Thursday night. The little bitch opened her mouth. PTSD. Terrible what war does to people. Gasps rippled through the room. Mrs. Weatherby's hand covered her mouth. That's doctored, my mother stammered. Then let's try video. I swiped my phone. The TV showed security footage from First National Bank, my father accepting an envelope from a contractor in the parking garage, counting bills, shaking hands. Gregory. Councilmember Harrison stood slowly. Is that? Here's every city contract for 3 years, I continued, documents cascading across the screen. Shao, notice how Hale Construction always wins by exactly 1% less than the nearest bid. Want to guess how he knew those numbers? You're destroying this family, my father roared. No, I'm documenting how you already destroyed it. Should we discuss Grandma's house? Evan stood up. This wasn't planned, but his face was stone. Play the recording from yesterday. I pulled up his file. My parents' voices filled the room, crystal clear. She's costing us $4,200 a month at that home. Should have sold the house sooner, before her mind went. Her mind was fine, I said to the silent room, until you drugged her. Here's the medical report: Ativan and Percocet, administered simultaneously. Here's the notary who witnessed her signature, your employee. Dad. Here's the deed transfer to Maple Development LLC. Here's the sale record, $400,000 that Grandma never saw. Oh my God, Patricia whispered. Mother's house. The district attorney's wife had her phone out, typing rapidly. Father Morrison was backing toward the door. "Sit down, Father," I said without looking. "You're a witness now." My mother tried one last play, tears streaming. "We did it for the family, for the foundation, for the community. You did it for this." The screen showed their bank accounts personal, not foundation. Deposits matching every diverted donation, every stolen fund, every contractor kickback. 1.3 million over 3 years, I announced. While the Jefferson Elementary kids ate generic crackers because you stole their lunch funding. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. I walked to the door with deliberate calm and opened it. "IRS criminal investigation," the first agent announced, badge visible. Behind him, 2 state fraud investigators and a uniformed officer. "We received a package of evidence this morning. These witness statements tonight provide probable cause." They entered like water through a broken dam. My father stepped back, his face shifting from red to white. "Gregory Hale, Lorraine Hale, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, tax evasion, and elder abuse." The cuffs clicked onto my father's wrists with a sound like punctuation. He stared at me, his mask finally, completely shattered. "You planned this." "Every second," I confirmed, "while you were spreading lies about my mental health. I was building a federal case." My mother, being cuffed, found her voice. "You ungrateful ma'am, you have the right to remain silent." The agent interrupted. The room erupted, the Weatherbys demanding their money back, council members on phones with lawyers, Patricia crying, asking how they could do this to their own mother. Evan moved beside me. "The notebook," he said quietly. "Mom's handwriting." I handed it to the lead investigator. "There's more. Blackmail of my employer. Attempted involuntary commitment under false pretenses. Witness tampering." He flipped through pages, his expression hardening. "We'll add obstruction of justice and conspiracy charges." As they led my parents out, my father turned one last time. "You'll regret this." "The only thing I regret," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is staying silent for 32 years. The door closed behind them. The room full of witnesses stood frozen, processing what they'd seen. Mrs. Weatherby approached slowly. "The foundation money, can we get it back?" "The forensic accountants will recover what they can. The house will be returned to my grandmother. The rest—" I shrugged. "Depends on what's left after they pay for lawyers." One by one, people left, none making eye contact. The scandal would race through Maple Briar before midnight. By morning, everyone would know. Patricia lingered, her face puffy from crying. "Did they really hit you?" "At my house?" I showed her the doorbell camera footage on my phone, the slap, the second slap, the wine glass falling. She sobbed harder. I saw it happen and told myself it couldn't be what it looked like. That's what they counted on. Everyone seeing but not seeing. When the house emptied except for Evan and me, we stood in the dining room amid abandoned plates and cooling food. The smell of nutmeg had gone bitter. "They'll make bail tomorrow," he said. "Let them. The evidence is filed. The witnesses are on record. The IRS doesn't let go once it bites. What about you? Your job? Your apartment?" "I'll figure it out. I've rebuilt from less." I touched the pen camera in my pocket. "Besides, wrongful termination lawsuits are lucrative, especially when you have evidence of blackmail." We walked out together, leaving the lights on, doors unlocked. Let the house stand empty and exposed, like the truth it had hidden for so long. In the driveway, I looked back once, through the window. The TV still glowed. Frozen on the final slide, I'd prepared a photo of Grandma in her garden at the house they'd stolen, smiling, unaware of what was coming. "For you, Grandma," I whispered, then got in my car and drove away from the ruins of my parents' empire. The aftermath moved with military precision. While my parents sat in separate holding cells, the machinery of justice began its methodical dismantling of their empire. The lead investigator, Agent Sarah Delacroix, worked through the evidence with the focus of a surgeon. By 9:47 p.m., she'd frozen 17 accounts. The forensic accountant found another 200,000 hidden in cryptocurrency. My mother had been more tech-savvy than expected. Sign here. Ari slid papers across the conference room table at the federal building. Emergency injunction to reverse the property transfer. Your grandmother's house goes back to her name immediately. I signed, my hand steady despite the exhaustion pulling at my bones. And this one. Another document. Temporary restraining order against both parents, effective immediately upon their release. Evan sat beside me, still processing. He'd driven here straight from the house, bringing the rest of my mother's notebooks, 3 years of meticulous crime, written in her perfect cursive. This one's interesting. Agent Delacroix held up a page. She documented bribing the psychiatric evaluation team. Dr. Marsh is about to lose his license. The commitment hearing Monday. Cancelled. The petition's been withdrawn, and we're adding false imprisonment conspiracy to the charges. Through the window, I could see news vans arriving. Someone had leaked probably the district attorney's wife, covering her own exposure. By morning, it would be state news. By Monday, national outlets would pick up the story of the charity fraud in small-town America. At 11:15 p.m., Ari's phone rang. She listened, then handed it to me. Your father's lawyer. Miss Hale, Richard Brennan here. Your parents are prepared to make a deal. No deals. They'll return everything. Full restitution. Sign the house back. They'll do that anyway, by court order. They have information about other city council members. Bigger fish. I almost laughed. Tell them to give that information to the FBI. It might reduce their sentences from 20 years to 15. Silence. Then, you're destroying your parents? No, Mr. Brennan. I'm letting them face consequences. There's a difference. I hung up and turned to find Agent Delacroix smiling grimly. We've been trying to crack this municipal corruption ring for 2 years. Your evidence just opened every door. The next hours blurred together. More signatures. More evidence logged. The IRS agent calculated tax fraud going back 7 years. They'd have to forfeit everything, possibly more. The house would be sold. The cars. The lake property. My mother's jewelry, bought with stolen funds. At 1:23 a.m., we finished the immediate legal work. Evan drove me to Maya's apartment, neither of us speaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving only hollow exhaustion. They're going to blame me, he said finally. For helping you. Probably. I don't care. I watched them hurt you for years. Watched them hurt Grandma. I was a coward. You were scared. There's a difference. Is there? I thought about all the family dinners where he'd sat silent while bruises formed under the table. Then I thought about him recording evidence, risking everything. You're here now. That's what matters. Maya was waiting with coffee and a laptop. Local news already has it. Prominent couple arrested at Thanksgiving dinner. Your mother's prayer circle is having an emergency meeting. To pray for her, to demand their donations back. We sat on her couch, watching the story spread across social media. The comments ranged from shock to satisfaction, apparently. My parents had made many enemies over the years, people too frightened or polite to speak up. At 3:17 a.m., my phone rang. Tom Rodriguez. Nora, I owe you an apology. The FBI just contacted me about the blackmail. I had no idea it was connected. They threatened you. Tom, I understand. Your job is waiting whenever you're ready to return, with a raise, and a formal apology from the board. I'll think about it. After he hung up, I sat in the darkness, processing. In 12 hours, I'd lost everything and gained it back. But the victory felt hollow. Necessary, but hollow. You did the right thing, Maya said. Did I? They're my parents. They stopped being your parents the first time they hit you and called it love. Through the window, snow began to fall. The first real snow of the season, covering Maple Briar in white like a clean sheet over a crime scene. Somewhere across town, my parents were being processed fingerprints, mugshots, the systematic stripping of dignity they'd stripped from others for years. At 4:30 a.m., Ari texted, "Bail hearing set for noon. Prosecution requesting no bail due to flight risk. Your evidence of hidden cryptocurrency accounts helps." Another text from Agent Delacroix. 3 more city council members just offered to testify in exchange for immunity. Your parents' house of cards is collapsing. But the text that mattered came from Evan. Just left Grandma. Told her she's getting her house back. She cried and asked if you were okay. Told her you're the strongest person I know. I set down the phone and closed my eyes. Tomorrow today. Technically, there would be more. More evidence to process. More conspirators to uncover. More family members choosing sides. But for now, in the pre-dawn silence, I let myself feel the weight lift. 32 years of suffocating silence. Finally broken. The masks finally shattered. The truth, ugly and necessary, finally exposed to light. "You should sleep," Maya said. "Not yet. One more thing to do." I pulled out my laptop and began typing an email to every person my parents had contacted about my mental health crisis. Subject: the truth about mental health. The only delusion I suffered from was believing family loyalty meant accepting abuse. The only breakdown happening is the systematic fraud my parents perpetrated. Attached is the federal indictment. My mental health is excellent. It's my family that was sick. Signed, Nora Hale. Completely sane. Finally free. I hit send, watching it go to 200 contacts. By sunrise, everyone would know. Maya squeezed my shoulder. "How does it feel?" I thought about the question. Really considered it. Like I can finally breathe. Outside, the snow continued falling, erasing the old landscape, preparing the ground for whatever came next. The snow was falling harder now. At 5:43, as I stood on Maya's balcony, each flake caught the streetlight before disappearing into the accumulated white below. Behind me, through the sliding door, I could hear Maya on the phone with another reporter. The story had grown wings. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number that turned out to be Councilmember Harrison. "Your father offered me $30,000 to vote for his contracts. I took it. I'll testify." Another domino falling. By my count, that made 7 co-conspirators ready to flip. My parents had built their empire on mutual corruption, never understanding that crime partnerships dissolve the moment handcuffs appear. Evan arrived as the sun broke the horizon, carrying coffee and a manila folder. "Grandma wants to see you." "Is she?" "She's clear today. Really clear." "The doctor said sometimes shock can do that create windows of lucidity." The drive to Peaceful Meadows Nursing Home took 12 minutes through empty streets. The snow had covered everything: the perfect lawns, the mailboxes, the sins of small-town respectability. Grandma sat by her window, wearing the blue cardigan I'd given her 3 Christmases ago. When she saw me, her eyes were sharp, present. "Nora." She held out her hands, and I took them, feeling the papery skin, the tremor that medication couldn't quite control. "They told me what you did." "I'm sorry it took so long." "No, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I knew what they were, saw how they hurt you, but I was old and tired and—" She touched my cheek where the bruise had faded. "I failed you." "You didn't fail anyone." "I can go home." "As soon as you're ready. Evan and I will help." She squeezed my hands with surprising strength. "Your father came here yesterday. Before. Told me I was confused, that I'd agreed to sell. Made me doubt my own mind." "You weren't confused. They drugged you." "I know that now." She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out something small, wrapped in tissue. "I saved this. Hid it when they were packing my things." Inside the tissue was a compass. Military issue. Engraved, "Lieutenant Nora Hale for finding true north." Grandpa would be proud, she said. You fought the hardest battle, the one at home. I stayed with her until she dozed off, then left the compass on her nightstand where she'd see it when she woke. The metaphor was almost too perfect. I'd lost my direction for years, letting my parents' magnetic field pull me off course. Outside, my phone rang. Agent Delacroix. Bail denied. Both your parents are being held pending trial. The cryptocurrency discovery convinced the judge their flight risks. How long until trial? 6 months, maybe 8. But Nora, they're going to plead. Their lawyer already started negotiations. With the evidence you provided, trial would be a formality. 6 months. By next Thanksgiving, it would be over. I drove to my parents' house one last time. Crime scene tape crossed the door. But I didn't need to go inside. I stood in the driveway where I'd stood 12 hours earlier, a different person than still carrying their shame, their violence, their twisted version of love. The Kowalskis were watching from their window. I waved. Mrs. Kowalski came out, bathrobe over pajamas. Nora, honey, we had no idea. Yes, you did, I said gently. Everyone did. We just agreed not to see it. She flushed but nodded. You're right. We heard things, saw things, should have said something. Say something next time, for the next person who can't speak up. I walked to my car, boots leaving deep prints in the snow. As I drove away, I saw her still standing there, perhaps reconsidering every family she knew, every closed door that might hide another perfect crime. The sun was fully up now, 7:12 a.m., turning the snow-covered town into something from a postcard, beautiful and clean and false, the same Maple Briar it had always been, just with 2 fewer predators walking its streets. My phone buzzed with messages, job offers from companies that had seen the news and wanted someone with my kind of courage, interview requests from national outlets. A text from Dr. Morrison at the VA. Other veterans with family trauma wanted to know how I'd found the strength. But the message that mattered was from Evan, moving Grandma home next week, want to help. Yes, I typed back. We'll do it together. I parked at the overlook outside town, watching Maple Briar wake up below. Smoke rose from chimneys. Cars emerged from garages. The morning ritual of pretending everything was normal, even when the whole foundation had shifted. The pen camera sat on my dashboard, its purpose served. Evidence uploaded, backed up, submitted. The tiny weapon that had brought down an empire built on decades of lies. I thought about my father's last words, "You'll regret this." But standing there, breathing free air, watching snow erase the old landscape, I felt only relief. The kind that comes from finally stepping out of a shadow you've lived in so long, you forgot the sun existed. My phone rang. Maya. You okay? Yeah, for the first time in 32 years, I actually am. Good, because Channel 9 wants an exclusive. The FBI wants you to consult on similar cases, and your landlord called he's tearing up the eviction notice and offering you a lease renewal with 3 months free rent as an apology. Tell them all I'll think about it. What are you going to do now? I looked at the compass on my passenger seat, its needle pointing steadily north despite everything that had tried to spin it off course. Right now, I'm going to drive. Tomorrow, I'll help Grandma go home. Next week, maybe I'll figure out what my life looks like without them in it. And next Thanksgiving. I smiled, the first real smile in years. Next Thanksgiving, we'll have dinner at Grandma's house. Evan, you, Ari, maybe some other survivors. We'll cook our own food, tell our own stories, create our own family. No masks allowed. No masks allowed. I ended the call and sat in the silence, watching the town below begin its day. Somewhere in federal holding, my parents were waking up to concrete and consequences. Somewhere in town, their co-conspirators were calling lawyers. Somewhere in a nursing home, my grandmother was dreaming of her garden. And here, on a hill overlooking it all, I sat in my car with snow falling on the windshield, each flake unique and temporary and free exactly like this moment, Exactly like the truth. Exactly like me. The dashboard clock read 7:41 a.m. In the distance, a hawk circled over the white landscape, hunting. I started the engine, pulled onto the road, and drove toward whatever came next. Behind me, my footprints in the snow were already filling in, erasing the path I'd taken to get here. But ahead, the road was clear, salted and waiting, leading away from Maple Briar and towards something I'd almost forgotten existed a future I got to write myself. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect across distances. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought at our own dinner tables, and you're not alone in that fight.